Well, we're going to study the book of Daniel starting today. Have you guys read Daniel? Not 10 years ago, okay? Well, I don't know the common theme that we should be tracking on this one. But Daniel is a very interesting book because of all the books of prophecy in the Bible, Daniel is the book wherein most of the prophecies were fulfilled. Most, okay? And it covers the interesting thing is it covers at least 70 years. 70 years is the Babylonian exile. That's in 586 BC when Nebuchadnezzar took the people of Israel to Babylon. That's the southern kingdom. Daniel is interesting because Daniel went to Babylon before the exile, years before the exile. And so at least 70 years. So the whole exile is 70 years. Daniel lived through all of that. That's why I think it's in chapter 7, while Daniel was reading from the scriptures, he recognized that the 70 years prophecy of Jeremiah is coming to an end. He saw this before it happened, while it's happening, and at its conclusion. Okay? So Daniel was a very young man when he went to Babylon. A very talented young man. He was of royal blood. I don't know how far, but 12 years after he went to Babylon, we can call Daniel as a statesman prophet. It's too cold in here, right? I want to take my blanket now, you know. What was I saying?
Statesman prophet.
Yeah, Daniel was a statesman prophet. Around 12 years after he went to Babylon, another prophet went there. The name is Ezekiel. Ezekiel is what we call as a priestly prophet. Okay, so here what you have is a great comparison because Daniel know what happened in the northern kingdom. Remember, after Solomon's death, Jeroboam and Rehoboam split the kingdom. Jeroboam went to the north, Samaria, that is the 10 tribes, and then Rehoboam stayed in the south, Judah and Benjamin. So they were like that for years, for a couple of hundreds of years, and then the people of Israel were given the warnings. That's why the comparison in today's life is very clear. You don't need that much interpretation. God keeps raising prophets in the likes of Moses. I mean, you go through Isaiah, all of those prophets. And the Lord, and there were priests, the Lord spoke to them and said, hey, listen guys, straighten up. You guys are committing idolatry. You have worshipped other gods. And by the way, whenever you hear the Lord is speaking in the Bible against adultery so much, he's talking about idolatry also. Because idolatry, when you worship idols, when you have an idol before you and God, that's a spiritual adultery. The same spirit, the same demon that oppresses and possesses people who are adulterous are also idolaters. You know, some of the most adulterous people in the world are religious people. The Catholic Church, the reason why the vow of celibacy was initiated was because the priests were having so many kids from different women. Their husbands will be sent out to battle, and the wives will be left needing counseling, and so they will go to the confessional, and then after the confessional, they go to the bedroom. That's literal. And so the priests started having... we have popes with several wives, and we have popes in the past with several children. An example of that is Pope Alexander, a very adulterous pope. And so what they have done is they say, if you're going to serve God, you have to avoid all of these worldly lusts. And so they started what they call as the vow of celibacy. A little over, almost around 50 years ago, if you were following the news at the back of your head, the Roman Catholic Church started the debate on whether they will restore marriage in the priesthood. Why? Because they are running out of students to become priests. By the way, if you want to be a priest, you can get a scholarship with almost no credentials. They need students. Okay? I was offered a scholarship in a Catholic, I was almost ready to say cemetery, seminary. I was offered a scholarship, the seminary by Guadalupe in Makati. I was offered a scholarship there to be a priest. Well, I don't want to be a priest, I want to get married. So there's a lot of money right now. And so around 50 years ago, they started talking about, are we going to restore marriage in the priesthood? Because you run out of priests, so what happened to the church, So now, along with that, there may not be much interest. So now they are also debating whether they are going to allow the nuns now to become regular priests, to be ordained, and also to break the communion, because only the priests can do that. There's a lot of things going on because of lack of students. Well, the nation of Israel were warned. If you don't follow the law of the Lord, judgment is coming. The other Friday, John talked on Jeremiah 29, and he was basically mentioning the same thing. But then the nation of Israel, from generation to generation, they hear these prophets. Parang sirang plaka, Have you noticed the prophets in the Bible are like broken records? It doesn't matter, because it's coming from the same God. So it doesn't matter who the prophet is, they have the same message. Repent. You stop idolatry. You stop adultery. Repent. That's all. Go back to the law of the Lord. Generation to generation. So one generation after the other, nothing was happening. So the Lord kept giving them victories. If there is a righteous king or judge, the Lord will continue to bless them. And so the nation of Israel became like a diaphragm. Okay? Why a diaphragm? Your diaphragm expands and contracts. Okay? When the nation of Israel are obedient to the Lord, the territory, the boundaries, expands. The Lord bless them, they prosper. But then when they backslide, it contracts. It keeps shrinking. So the nation of Israel became like, Judges is like that, Kings and Chronicles are like that. And yet, in spite of all of that, the nation of Israel refused to repent. I mean, you can read that and say, wow, it's the same thing today. It doesn't matter how many ministers the Lord raised or prophets, people will do what they want. And so finally, the northern kingdom was the most evil of all during that time. When they went north in the tribe of Dan, they built an altar right away. And some of you who went with me to Israel last time, you saw that altar. They have put the stainless steel there already, but that's the exact location where the temple, where the altar was built. And they continue to backslide. Now, the funny thing is this. There were prophets, but the prophets were in the pocket of the kings and the priests. Have you noticed most of the church, if not 100%, 99% of the church is disobedient on this one. Have you noticed in the Bible, God says to the priests, I am your inheritance, so they are not supposed to have so many things. They are given cities of refuge. That is where they build their houses. That's where their generations thrive. They have farmlands there. They raise animals there and everything else. And God says the tithes doesn't belong to the nation of Israel. It belongs to the Levites. I always wonder about that. How come the Lord not only prospered the Levites, He wants them to have complete financial independence? Well, I know the reason now. Because in politics, Congress holds the power of the purse. Whoever holds the money controls the power. You know. Now, of course, we violate that today. People who don't even pay their tithes wants to be in the board to control the money. That's one of the most unbiblical things there is. The reason why God wants the ministers to control the money is so that we can have financial independence. Because a lot of ministers are threatened by members of the church leaving the church, and they will no longer pay their tithes. And so the ministers are afraid, where are we going to get the money to eat? And so a lot of people wants to control the money, and God says, don't do that. And so what happened is the priests begin to control the money, the politicians, the kings. The church in Europe collapsed because they have state-sponsored churches. You're talking about Europe. You know, you go to, I forgot the countries. Romania is one example. The state pays the salary of the priests, of the pastors. And so you don't have to have, you want land, the government will give you land. That's what they do. And so what happened, the ministers doesn't have to pray anymore, doesn't have to depend on God anymore. But they don't have independence. If the president or the dictator says, don't teach that, they don't teach that. Otherwise, they will have no food. And so the congregation in modern day, and by the way, when I was at Northwestern, Garrett, Obama started a talk on how the United States can pay the pastors or the ministers in the U.S. In fact, the Roman Catholic Church, because they're losing money and members, they are among those who suggested the implementation of collective tithes and offering. What's collective tithes and offering? All the collections of all churches will go to one chest. And it will be distributed equally to all religions, including Islam. Yeah. If that happens, that's one world religion. But Obama started that. Obama also, prior to him, the only recognized ministers by the state in the U.S., not by the Lord, okay? By the state. You are not recognized by the state as a minister unless you have an MD, a master's program. But now Obama started this. He wanted that the ministers have at least a doctorate degree. Yeah. By the way, that's one of the reasons why I push for mine, because I saw this happening before. So I told my wife, this day will come, and if I'm alive, they will disqualify me. I might as well take care of it. That's why I took my doctorate. Yeah. And while I'm taking it, they announced it. Obama started to talk. This is what I'm telling you. You have to see things before it happens. The Lord will allow you to see things so that you can do the right actions. Now, what happened was, no hellfire and brimstone were falling on the nation of Israel. Prophets died. Jesus himself said they killed all the prophets in Jerusalem. And the people are still thriving. Yeah, there will be opposition. 200 yards away from the temple, they found figurines in Jewish houses. 200 yards. You're talking about 2 football fields. 200 yards from the temple, in all directions, they found figurines. What are these figurines? Idols. Now, of course, right now, the Roman Catholic Church have idols that are as big as a human being. They cannot do that in those days. Only the pharaohs and the kings build those. But the ordinary citizens like us, they cannot afford that, okay? So they worship idols this big. They are called figurines, this big. They have idols for everything. In fact, not too long ago, they found a goddess, and and they don't know what kind of goddess it is. They say, who is this goddess? It seems like she is blessing barley harvest or something like that. So they could not figure out, so they thought it was a harvest god, a fertility god. Well, as the archaeology in Israel continued, they found this figurine in all the taverns that they found. So it turned out she is a beer goddess. Yeah. If you want good beer, better than German beer, you worship this goddess, and she will give you the formula on how to brew that beer. But they have idols for everything. And the nation is not collapsing. Now, I was telling you that now the prophets are in the pocket of the kings. And you see that in the prophecy of Micaiah, of Jeremiah. And so, if the king doesn't like the prophecy, he cancels the prophet. He kills them or removes the money or just threw him in jail. So all the prophets were afraid, much like today. Christians want to control the ministers. They want to control the message. The government wants to control the message. In New York, you know, this happened. In New York, a legislator there proposed, in Texas, yeah, not New York, in Texas, Houston, Texas, the mayor started wanting to implement that all pastors will submit their sermons to her before they preach it. Yeah. Now, I don't know who will read it. Certainly, she will not read it. I know those mayors cannot read, because if they can read, they should have understood the Constitution. But most of our politicians doesn't know how to read. You should understand they're very illiterate, you know. They have, I don't know how they get their degrees, but they don't know how to read. So can you imagine this politician? Most politicians don't even write their speeches. But now, she wanted to censure the sermons of the pastors. Of course, the Christians rose in arms and began to object. So that stopped. So in Israel, the prophets keep rising, keep saying, the Lord will bring judgment. Nothing is happening. So when nothing is happening, what will people say? Nothing is going to happen. Yeah. Well, something happened. The Assyrians came and took the northern kingdom. Remember that? That's why Samaria, for the Jews, is like a Gentile, because a country, because they don't even want to go there. One of the most advanced medical university in the world today is in Samaria. They claim they found the cure to cancer, and they're just finalizing it. And what happened is this: because nothing is happening, they keep backsliding, they keep doing whatever they want. So the northern kingdom was taken by Assyria. The southern kingdom saw it. Wow, the prophecy is true. The northern kingdom was taken by Assyria. The citizens, the best of the best, were exiled. They were scattered all over the world. Only those who are poor, uneducated, and old, hopeless people stayed in Samaria. And the worst of all people were taken by the king of Assyria, and they were Tiglath-Pileser. It's in your Bible. They were brought, or Sennacherib, I'm sorry. They were brought to Samaria. Yeah. Remember that case? They even made a movie of this. It's a true story. When Fidel Castro took power in Cuba, and there's a lot of boats coming from Cuba coming to Florida, it turned out one of the things that Fidel Castro did was he emptied his prisons and allowed those criminals to flee, to sail to the U.S. That's what the Assyrians did. So the worst of the world were brought to Samaria. Yeah. The southern kingdom saw that. Yeah. And they say, whoa, the judgment. So for a while they pretend to be repenting, but they did not. Not only did they not repent. Now remember, these Samaritans were their brothers, their fellow Jews. So they begin to be like some Christians today. Oh, they are brothers, they are sisters, we love them. So they embrace, they create a treaty. No separation. What happened? The sins of the north came down to the sins of to the south. That's what happened. Of course, even today Christians don't listen to that because we are smarter than God, like the Jews. So they observed that, and Daniel is in the south, and he saw that, and he saw this transpire in his eyes. And finally, they were taken exile. 70 years. Yeah. And then when they came back after 70 years, of course, there's a lot of prophecy that took place. When they came back after 70 years, it was never the same. They were not really able to occupy the promised land. It was only in 1948 that they became a nation once again. Only 1948. And the prophecy is still true. That nation, the nation of Israel today is still backslidden. Yeah. You know, the highest abortion per capita in the world is in Israel. Per capita. Yeah. Now, of course, their population is around 5 to 7 million people. So they're very small. But per capita, percentage-wise, the highest abortion rate is in Israel. So now you talk about them lamenting the Holocaust. They have killed as many children. Yeah. America laments the Holocaust. We have killed a generation of Americans through abortion. Now you see all of this, and us as a Christian family, we saw all of this. You see some people backslide. You see some people denounce the faith and serve the devil. What does it mean to you? We are talking about Daniel now. What does it mean to you? You know what it means to us? Nothing. Yeah. We still go about doing our business. Like the southern kingdom, we still hug the northerners until we are polluted with their sins. Why is that? This is what is called as the normalcy bias. When you begin to normalize what is not normal. You know, I can tell you now, growing up, there are certain things that are not acceptable to us. I bet even here in the U.S. For example, a child answering back his or her parents. If I answer back my parents, in public I'll get a slap. Now no more. The children slap their parents now. Yeah. Back then it was not acceptable. Now it's acceptable. By the way, in my days, if you are gay, you keep it quiet. You hide. Now they want everybody to be converted. In my days, it's being opposed. And then those generations, it's acceptable now. I'll tell you what, if Jesus tarry, the next generation that we have, our children, if they're not raised right, they will think that transgenderism is normal. That's not a prophecy. I'm telling you the trend that goes on. They will begin to think it's normal. Why? Because my generation, some of you are my generation, you're still alive, some of you already agreed in LGBTQ. It was wrong before. How come it becomes right now? It's called normalcy bias, wherein you normalize what is abnormal. Okay? And the South saw that. And they were alarmed to begin with, but after that, they forgot. And one of the first victims was, of course, Daniel. Okay? To have a better grips on Daniel, you need to know 1st and 2nd Kings and 1st and 2nd Chronicles. Not too long ago, maybe a couple of years ago, I taught a series on walking with kings and priests. Yeah. That's a year-long teaching. I don't know if you can review that, but that's the background, okay? So now, you are part of the generation. Just imagine this. You are part of the generation that was taken to Babylon. You are part of the generation taken to Babylon. What would you say or what would you think? Well, by the way, they don't charter a 747 airplane to fly to Babylon, okay? They walk from the west to the east. They walk on foot. A lot of them died. Thousands died. Now, while you are walking, there's a different kind of chains. They have a chain that is just a collar around your neck. They also have a chain with spikes for the criminals, that if you move, wiggle, you'll be pierced right away. And so sometimes somebody will die and you will drag the dead body. And now, remember, in this exile, marching are not just common people. Marching with them are prophets and priests. Yeah. And they will be looking at these prophets, and they will be looking at this priest, and they will say, priest, you said it was okay. I have 4 wives. You said it was okay. Now I lost my kids. And there goes the prophet. Prophet, you said it was okay. How come we are now being taken to Babylon? So there is a moment of repentance. And then they went to Babylon. They tried to sing the songs of Zion in repentance, and they said this, how can you sing the song of Zion by the rivers of Babylon? It's not the same. I mean, it's just like singing a Filipino song. Have you tried to sing Filipino song in America? It doesn't sound right. Filipino songs are best sung in the Philippines. I mean, just, you even watch boxing matches when they sing the national anthem of the Philippines. It doesn't sound the same as when Filipinos in the Philippines sing it. Really, and the Jew says, how can we sing the songs of Zion while we are by the rivers of Babylon? Not possible. So they begin to long to return. But it's too late. And the main statement that people always say is this: if we had just listened. I'll give you a very good illustration. I have counseled parents in this house over 20 years ago, and have told them, do the following things. And they were not able to do something with their children or with their spouses, and they told me this sometime later. I know, Pastor, say you told us this. We should have listened. Yeah, we should have listened. You're talking about the book of Daniel right now. Yeah. That's always the case. You say, why is this like this? Because that is, you do not know, none of us know the extent of how much evil we are capable of doing. Yeah. On the opposite side, we also do not know how much good we are capable of doing. I have seen most holy-looking people commit some of the most atrocious sins. Try to see on YouTube serial killers. They look nice. I mean, they smile while slitting your throat. Some of them have jars of body parts in their freezer. And yet, during the day, they are very respectful. You know, they're going to look at their victims. Hello, ma'am. I'm going to decapitate you. You know, you want something? You want coffee? They are very nice people on the outside. Oh, but the evil that is in human heart, who can tell? That's what the Bible says. Okay? And then you can look at the most less assuming individual, and yet accomplish a lot. Yeah, accomplish a lot. There's this William Branham, very powerful healing evangelist during his time, the last century. I mean, he will prophesy what's your address. He will give words of knowledge. He'll tell you the color of your house, and then tell you your sickness, and then ask you the question, do you believe? Of course you will believe. The guy is the most uncoordinated person there is. He will have blue jacket, maybe brown pants, and red socks. If he is not in the pulpit, there's nothing good about him. That's how he died. He was doing a very good healing crusade in a big hotel full of people, and then the service finished. After the service, it rained. He was full of sweat, and he was going to walk down to his hotel room, across the hotel where he was doing the meeting. He looks uncoordinated. And you know, from afar, you will not really recognize him when he's close. So he was walking with no umbrella, no assistance. And he was flogging some people, can you give me a lift? Because he was soaking wet. Nobody gave him a lift. He died of pneumonia. That's how it is. Yeah. So now the regrets are there. So that is just the background. And so now Daniel and the exile are in Babylon. Not because you're in Babylon means you're going to forget your faith. And so actually the book of Daniel is like a pamphlet on how to live by faith in the most hostile environment. Think about it. The three friends of Daniel were told, if you don't bow to the golden image, we will cook you in a furnace. And so the three friends of Daniel did not bow to the golden image. And how do you call it in English? Mga sul-sul. How's the English of that? Ano ang English ng sul-sul? The one who instigator, like. So some instigators are there. Is that still instigator? Yeah. So some instigators are there, and they made some gossips are there. This is gossip. Hey, king, the three Hebrew boys, they did not bow before the golden image. That's his image. They did not bow before it. And so the pride of the, what? Those three Hebrew, yeah, they're your slaves. They did not bow. Mga sul-sul, yeah, instigators. They're gossips. And so what happened was, the king, and they made the king. Have you had anybody in your life that made you so angry, and you want, why am I angry? You have no reason why you're angry, but somebody instigated, and it makes you angry. And the king was very furious. So instead of just throwing the three boys in the fiery furnace, he heated the thing 400% more. Yeah. And so the slaves who were taking these Hebrew boys to the furnace, the fire licked them and burned them. That's how hot it was. Because you made the politician angry. Remember Biden, Zelensky? Unless you remove that attorney general of yours, you're not going to get the $1 billion aid that we have. Remember when he was vice president? Most Americans forget that. That's how corrupt this guy is. And there's an audio tape of that. You see? Unless, that's what happened. Same thing with Daniel. So they throw these Hebrew boys. How are you going to live by faith? You know, Christians today say, well, you know, if the Antichrist comes, if you can't serve God today, believe me, you will not serve God when the Antichrist is here. It's going to be more difficult. It's easy to serve God right now, in spite of all the limitations. And this is what so a lot of Jews backslid totally. And they don't even want to go back to Israel anymore. Okay? So that's just a small background. Okay. Let's read a little bit, okay? So we can put more context here. Let's go to let's study this development or turn of events. Okay? Daniel 1 verse 1. In the third year of the reign of King Jehoiakim of Judah, King Nebuchadnezzar of Babylon came to Jerusalem and laid siege to it. By the way, when the king of Babylon laid siege, when they siege a city in those days, they don't siege it for 1 month. Sometimes 3 years, 4 years, 2 years. And so you starve until you surrender. While they were starving, remember, history tells us, based on the fulfillment of Deuteronomy 28, there will come a day you will be so hungry, you will eat your own babies. Yeah. And it happened. We read it in the Kings. They start eating their own babies. Hey, we have 1-year-old babies. We'll eat your baby today. Tomorrow, my baby. They begin to talk that way. Some of these people became demon-possessed because of hunger. And that's just, and it should have been enough for them to repent. But they did not repent still. Okay? So, the Lord handed King Jehoiakim of Judah over to him, along with some of the vessels of the house of God, Nebuchadnezzar carried them to the land of Babylon, to the house of God, of his God, and put the vessels in the treasury of his God. Now you look at that. The most precious possessions of Israel are the vessels of the temple. Nebuchadnezzar took them to Babylon. At first, when I was reading this, I was telling myself, man, God allowed that to happen. Until I begin to understand. In the first place, the nation of Israel was no longer taking care of those vessels. In fact, you will find, even in the times of Eli, they were desecrating it already. I believe God allowed Nebuchadnezzar to take those vessels for safekeeping. Yeah. Because later on it was turned for safekeeping. The nation of Israel cannot take care of these vessels. So the background of that passage that we read in Daniel is in 2 Chronicles. Let me read it to you. 2 Chronicles 36, starting on verse 1. Then the common people took Jehoahaz, son of Josiah, and made him king in Jerusalem in place of his father. Jehoahaz was 23 years old. Say 23. 23. Anybody here 23 years old? In 2 weeks. Okay. So, when he became king, and he reigned 3 months in Jerusalem. The king of Egypt deposed him in Jerusalem and fined the land 7,500 pounds of silver and 75 pounds of gold. Then King Necho of Egypt made Jehoahaz's brother Eliakim king over Judah and Jerusalem, and changed Eliakim's name to Jehoiakim. But Necho took his brother Jehoahaz and brought him to Egypt. That's the beginning of exile, but this time it's just Egypt, like a soft exile. Jehoiakim was 25 years old. So his brother was 20, now he was 25 years old when he became king, and he reigned 11 years in Jerusalem. He did what was evil in the sight of the Lord his God. Now King Nebuchadnezzar of Babylon attacked him and bound him in bronze shackles to take him to Babylon. Also Nebuchadnezzar took some of the articles of the Lord's temple to Babylon and put them in his temple in Babylon. The rest of the deeds of Jehoiakim, the detestable actions he committed. Now they are already being sieged, and still he committed sins. And what was found against him are written in the book of Israel's kings. His son Jehoiakim became king in his place. What are the book of the kings of Israel? First and Second Kings. Okay. So Jehoiakim is a name given by Pharaoh Necho to Eliakim. This was after the death of Josiah. Josiah, by the way, is one of the greatest reformers of Israel. In fact, they believe he was a Messiah. Now, notice this. This is one of the signs of a nation being handed over for judgment. Okay? How old were the kings? 23 and 25. What does a 23-year-old boy knows? Have you noticed lately? The most famous politicians that we have are the young ones who doesn't know anything. When you have somebody who's very young, doesn't know anything, running something, you have trouble. By the way, we have families, they allow their kids to run the house. I mean, kids 13 years old, 14 years old, they get whatever they want. That's the destruction of the house. Now, you will find in the scriptures now, that's why there is a requirement for elders. Elders are not just advanced in age. They have experience, they have wisdom, and they know how to apply knowledge. Okay? So, I think to be a member of the Sanhedrin court, you need to be at least 30 years old. Yeah. So, these are young leaders also. Listen to me. Young leaders are leaders who are easily taken advantage of. Yeah. You know, in simple things, I have 5 kids, so whenever my family likes celebrating, okay? We celebrate a lot. I have noticed this among the older kids. They're all foolish. But the older kids, say for example, if it's Joel's birthday and DJ wants some food, she will tell Joel, Joel, ask Mama and Papa for this food. And Joel says, but I don't like that. And they will manipulate Joel because he's young. No, Joel, we'll do this together. You know, we're brothers, we're sisters. Okay, and Joel, okay. Why? Young and stupid. Yeah. Can you imagine this if a country is run by young people? That's what happened. So in the judgment process, you even have kings. Josiah was something like 9 years old or 7 years old. And so guess who ran the palace? The high priest. The high priest is not supposed to run the palace. But the high priest ran the palace. That's what happened. You see? So there is a big argument for experienced leadership. Now, let's look at some more background, 2 Kings, because it gives us more detail. 2 Kings chapter 23, verse 31. Jehoahaz was 23 years old when he became king. And he reigned 3 months in Judah. Is it getting hot now? No. Yeah, it's getting hot now. I'm telling you this weather. Can you please turn it on again? What temperature was it earlier? 72 earlier? Okay, just make 72. It's getting hot now. Yeah. Oh. Thank God he is patient, huh? Jehoahaz was 23 years old when he became king, and he reigned 3 months in Jerusalem. His mother's name was Hamutal, daughter of Jeremiah, not the prophet, okay? She was from Libnah. He did what was evil in the Lord's sight, just as his ancestors had done. Pharaoh Necho imprisoned him at Riblah in the land of Hamath to keep him from reigning in Jerusalem. And he imposed on the land a fine of 7,500 pounds of silver and 75 pounds of gold. Then Pharaoh Necho made Eliakim, son of Josiah, king in place of his father Josiah, and changed Eliakim's name to Jehoiakim. But Necho took Jehoahaz and went to Egypt, and he died there. So Jehoiakim gave the silver and the gold to Pharaoh, but at Pharaoh's command, he taxed the land to give it. He exacted the silver and the gold from the common people, each according to his assessment, to give it to Pharaoh Necho. One of the signs of judgment is an ever-increasing taxes with no source of income. Can you imagine? Look at it this way. We're coming off COVID-19. America is coming off COVID-19. I am not coming off of that. I did not receive any of it, okay? I resisted the thing. So the economy was at a halt. It's still at a halt. Our taxes are being increased. That's the sign of the times, right there, okay? Jehoiakim was 25 years old when he became king, and he reigned 11 years in Jerusalem. His mother's name was Sevidah, daughter of Pedaiah. She was from Rumah. He did what was evil in the Lord's sight, just as his ancestors had done. Now you are seeing judgment. They keep doing evil. Chapter 24, verse 1. During Jehoiakim's reign, King Nebuchadnezzar of Babylon attacked Jehoiakim. Jehoiakim became his vassal for 3 years. And then he turned and rebelled against him. The Lord sent Chaldeans, Arameans, Moabite, and Ammonite traders against Jehoiakim. Now you have to remember that these Moabites, Ammonites, you look at Genesis, these are brothers, these are family of Israel. Now even family attacks family, okay? According to the word of the Lord, he had spoken through his servants, the prophets. This was foretold. Indeed, this happened to Judah at the Lord's command to remove them from his presence. It was because of the sins of Manasseh, according to all he had done. And also because of all the innocent blood he had shed, he had filled Jerusalem with innocent blood. And the Lord was not willing to forgive. Look at that. You shed innocent blood, the Bible says, God was not willing to forgive. What is the biggest crime in the U.S. right now? The shedding of innocent blood. God cannot forgive that. That's what the Bible says. Okay? The rest of the events of Jehoiakim's reign, along with all his accomplishments, are written in the historical record of Judah's kings. Jehoiakim rested with his ancestors, and his son Jehoiakim became king in his place. Now the king of Egypt did not march out of his land again, for the king of Babylon took everything that had belonged to the king of Egypt, from the brook of Egypt to the Euphrates River. So, in chapter 24, verse 2, from what we read, it clearly stated all these are fulfillment of the warnings and words that the prophets had spoken for hundreds of years. Our problem is this. Preachers like me preach judgment. What happened to you? Nothing. Nothing. Because God is not like that. Something is happening, but it's not obvious. And that nothing gives us an illusion of God's inactivity. We think God is like our parents. You know how foolish our parents are? The parents say this is wrong. The children keep doing it, and the parent says, I cannot do anything anymore. It's normal. God is not like that. So God exacted the judgment He promised. And the people refused to repent. This is according to the words of the prophets. By the way, whenever I speak to you warnings from the word of the Lord, I am not the first one who preached that. Some of you have been born again years ago. You have heard others preach that. You have heard that. And we continue not to listen. The leaders and the whole nation decided to ignore all these words. And we know this from especially Deuteronomy chapter 28. My goodness. The description. And worst, Judah witnessed what happened to the northern kingdom. One would say that it should have been enough warning. I was questioned this by some of my colleagues in the Philippines. And by the way, some of the members here. They told me, Pastor, why did you say that your kids can backslide? Because they look at my kids, they're decent. You know, they're good, they listen to my words. But I say, my kids can backslide. So they asked me, especially in the Philippines, Pastor, say your kids are good. Yeah, because they're ignorant, you know. Your kids are good. Why do you say they can backslide? I'll tell you why I say my kids can backslide. You know why? Because they can. You know why some of our parents, some of you, in fact, do not discipline your kids? Because you don't accept that. You think your kids straight the way to heaven from the very time they were born. You are ignoring what the Bible says, that evil is in the heart of every man. And the Bible even clearly says, no one can fathom the depths of this. Later on, especially tonight, I will explain what I mean by the normalcy bias that I'm trying to explain. All of us here can relate to this. We have seen how God poured judgment on fellow believers who turned their backs on the Lord. I can tell you, preachers, look what happened to Jimmy Swaggart. Look at what happened to Jim Baker. I mean, look, I can tell you, preachers, A.A. Allen was a drunkard, died of drunkenness. Yeah. We have seen all of that. How come we don't learn? By the way, a pedophile, head of the Southern Baptist Convention, was found. We still never learn from that. Yeah. That's the nature of evil. If you allow it to prosper, it will continue to take roots in the hearts of people. So, worse than the north is actually the south, because you saw that. I'll tell you, some of the ministers that I admire the most, couple of them were my mentors. I have seen them lose their children. Yeah, they lost their children. I'm telling you, T.L. Osborne, while having crusades, lost his son, drug overdose. Now, if those people, if it can happen to them, I look at me and say, whoa, the possibility of it happening to me is higher. Because those are highly gifted individuals. That's why I raise my kids the way I raise my kids, because it can happen to them. I have no illusion over this. I'm not going to tell you that my kids have halo shining over their heads. No, I am not that foolish. Okay? That's why they do something that I don't very much approve of. And they will tell me, how cruel. Really? But how cruel are you? You watch your children commit adultery. Go with the devil. Who is more cruel? You see, this is, you have to get this, because we are seeing it happen in America. We are. I mean, the last generation is telling this generation, stop what you're doing. There was an old man here, the name is Ron. Well, I don't know if you guys remember that old man. Pool player. And he knows his Bible. So I asked him, what church do you go to? Where did you learn the Bible? He told me, I was raised in Kentucky. He said the Bible lessons were our lessons in the public school system in Kentucky. Kentucky is just, 5 hours away from here? He said, those are our lessons in the elementary school. I've learned the second coming of Christ in public school. I said, what happened? He said, I don't know. They stopped teaching the Bible in the school. And he's telling me it should go back. It should come back. We have watched that happen. But what did we do? Now churches are no longer teaching the Bible. We criticize the public schools for no longer praying and no longer teaching the Bible. A lot of churches don't teach the Bible anymore. We never learn our lesson. We have to start paying attention, because if we turn, this kind of blindness is deception. It's not uncommon. It's still happening today. We can talk about so many examples before us. Now we can make a quick application. How many of us have seen examples from others, or even from our own lives, a series of warnings, yet completely ignore the same and fall for the same thing? Look, students, hey, do your homework early, right? What did they do? They watch TV. How many of your kids called their teacher or emailed their teacher asking for extension? They could not finish that half-page essay. Half-page essay. You can do that while drinking coffee. They cannot do that. But they have plenty of time to play video games. They have seen fellow classmates do that. You know, sometimes my kids will tell me, well, Papa, I have an essay this week, 3 pages. I said, I write at least 20 pages every week. Simply because there is no excuse. But we really don't learn. We really don't learn. That is the problem. That's the malady of evil. That's sickness. It's vicious. Okay? And there's a lot more examples that we can quote, you know. Look at the American family. The American family is a failed system. It failed miserably. Why are we still following it? You know, at the age of 18, my kids can do their own decision. They cannot even do their own bed, my goodness, and they're already 25. Some of these American kids, they are already old and they cannot even provide for their families. How can you say that? Oh, but in America, at 18, they can do whatever they want. Hey, guys, listen to me. The American family system is a failed one. A failed one. I have met, talked, listened to so many kids. All they want is to leave their house. They want to get free from the clutches of their parents. And yet, in times of emergency, they expect their parents to do something about it. It's a failed system. Look at our government, okay? We already know of our failed policies. My goodness, we just, we are for helping others. We have sent what? Over $150 billion to Ukraine already. You know why Ukraine can't defend itself? It's one of the most corrupt countries in the world. So the officials have corrupted the money for defense, and now our taxpayers has to bail it out. Now we have to have compassion and help them out, right? But hey, listen, you ask yourself a question, why do you have to pay for something that they corrupted? And then, while we are sending that, they cut our economic line of support here, and guess what they did? Put more taxes. I'll tell you this. Government don't learn. They just never learn. And so I'll tell you this. This is not a prophecy, but this is a pattern, okay? They will continue to increase our taxes. While saying, let's stop the energy exploration, let's send all the jobs to China, we'll keep raising your taxes. Well, sirs, there's no more job here. It doesn't matter. They never learn. They never. And by the way, these people, they are graduates of Harvard, of Yale, of Princeton. They're graduate of these so-called prestigious universities. They never learn. Sin is sin. Now, we have to say this because another thing that led Israel to the exile is they refused to see themselves as they have really become. Okay? 2 weeks ago, my wife, I don't know what my wife was doing. What were you doing? She was becoming like John, So she fell and hurt her ankle. And, she's a screamer, so she screamed out loud. Now, she did not hurt her ankle and say, let me drive. She looked at herself and said, I cannot drive. Now, that may be the most simple illustration. But when you see yourself, you are injured in your driving foot. You say you can't drive. One of the things that we need to learn to do is this, to evaluate ourselves. Do I feel right? Am I happy? I'll tell you this, if we begin just to ask ourselves, am I happy with my family, with the way my life is going on? A lot of us will say, no, I'm not. And yet, what are we doing about it? We're not doing anything. Because what we have done is this, change the verbs. I was telling this to you. Instead of saying, train up a child, we say, pray for the child. No, don't change the verb. Like the Bible says, go and make disciples. We change the verb of go into pray and make disciples. No, don't change the verbs. There are certain actions that we should be doing. Well, my child is very lazy. He who doesn't work must not eat. Don't feed the child. Well, kawawan man. There we go again. God himself said, don't feed the child. Are you better than God? Just don't feed the child. The moment the child gets hungry, he will ask for a job and do everything so that he can, but we are smarter than God now. That's progressivism. Yeah. So these are some of the backgrounds. So, Israel was never honest in their family, in their community, in their national reviews. And when that dishonesty takes place, my wife asked me several times, sweetheart, do you really expect me to submit to you? I said, yeah, I really have no other choice. I don't want to be unhappy. Yeah. I really don't like wearing skirts. Some men likes wearing skirts. I can't even imagine myself wearing skirts. Can you? I'm not Scottish, But some people really look good wearing skirts. with a bagpipe. Yeah. But I just cannot. I just cannot imagine myself that way. Now, some people endure it, and I cannot do anything. Just go, well, that's your choice. You are normalizing the abnormal. That's normalcy bias. And Israel have done that. Okay? When you begin to do that, then the society becomes very unhappy. Now, compare this to God. Let's do a short comparison, okay? Genesis 11:1. The whole earth had the same language and vocabulary. As people migrated from the east, they found a valley in the land of Shinar, this is in Babylon, and settled there. You know, valleys are the most fertile lands, we know that, because when the wind blows and there's soil erosion, the highly fertile lands of the mountains goes to the valley. Okay, so they said to each other, come, let's make oven-fired bricks. They used bricks for stone and asphalt for mortar. And they said, come, let's build ourselves a city and a tower with its top in the sky. Let's make a name for ourselves. Otherwise, we will be scattered throughout the earth. Then the Lord came down to look over the city and the tower that the humans were building. The Lord said, if they have begun to do this as one people, all having the same language, then nothing they plan to do will be impossible for them. Now let me just expand that a little bit, okay? If they have begun to do this as one people, all having the same language, then nothing they plan or nothing evil that they plan will be impossible for them. Come, let us go down there and confuse their language so they will not understand one another's speech. So from there, the Lord scattered them throughout the earth, and they stopped building the city. Therefore, it is called Babylon, for the Lord confused the language of the whole earth, and from there, the Lord scattered them throughout the earth. I'll tell you this. When I was teaching to you Judges before, I told you, the reason why God finally gave the land of Canaan to Israel. The Bible says the cup of God's wrath is full. History tells us this. It was a center of demon power, the land of Israel, Canaan. I mean, they worship Moloch, the Asherah poles. They burn babies in the hands of Moloch. It's a big hand, and they will heat it up until it's seared white, and they'll put babies there. It's going to be a roasted baby. That's how evil it is. Okay, now they have a park there. They show movies in that same valley in Israel right now. Demon possession was so rampant in that city. They eat their babies. They sacrifice their babies. Oh, the adultery, the lasciviousness, the idol is so much. It's unchained evil. Okay? And so God says, I will remove you from the land and give it to the people. You know why God removed Israel from Israel? They were doing the same thing. In fact, God said this, you have even become more evil than the prior occupants of this land. Yeah. That's why they have to be removed. That's what happened. They never learned their lesson. So now, if we will, notice how God analyzed what's going on. In verse 6, God said that nothing will be impossible for man, that is, in the evil plans, they will do it. Let me ask you this. 50 years ago, those of you who are 50 years older, my generation, I never thought that day will come when they will legalize same-sex marriage. Never thought of that. I mean, the very thought of same-sex marriage is very repulsive in my eyes. I never thought. But God said this, if we don't confuse their language, nothing is impossible for them. They'll do all. Have you ever thought, like just 20 years ago, that there will come a time they will legalize sex change? 20 years ago. Oh, there is no limit. Nothing will be impossible for man. You know, in the 90s, we were told in the Bioethics Society when it was started, they are already cloning human beings in secret laboratories, especially in France. They say there are billionaires who are earmarking hundreds of millions of dollars to clone human beings. Why? Because they want to grow their heart in other bodies. These super rich people, if their heart is weak, they will harvest a heart from a cloned individual that they have financed. And the Bioethics Society were telling us during the 90s, we know it's happening. We don't know where they are because the government cannot really control these things. Have you ever thought of that? Right now, we are being forced to pay for demons changing their sex organs. And you have no choice. The moment they collect your taxes, they can earmark it. I never thought that the day will come, they will legalize bestiality. They will legalize. By the way, right now, there are laws, one in the state of New York, they are now suggesting, they are limiting the age. What is pedophilia before is no longer pedophilia today. An adult can have a sex with a 9-year-old girl. They're growing up. I never thought this is possible. But God said this, if we don't confuse their language, as far as planning evil is concerned, nothing is impossible. They'll keep doing that. That's why the cup of God's wrath will become full. You know, today, we look at that and we say, oh, that's what they want. That's what my child wants. That's what my wife wants. That's what my husband wants. It's okay. God will never say that. That's why God said, I will separate them. Look at what God says. Listen to this, okay? I will confuse. Let's confuse their language. Did you read that? Let's confuse their language. Have you read the scriptures that says God has not given us a spirit of confusion? Have you read that? How come here it says, I'll confuse their language? Is God violating His word? No. Remember in the vision of Isaiah, how am I going to destroy this nation? A lying spirit stood up and said, I'll put lies in the mouth of the prophets. And God says, go. That means the spirit of confusion of the devil has been wanting to confuse the people. And God is putting a hold on it until God says, enough. He released them. Yeah. A people confused is mark of demonic oppression. You know, that's why when I don't say, well, I'm never confused. I really know what I'm talking about and I really know what I'm doing. I'm never confused. The moment you start saying you are confused, you know what you just said? A demon has been oppressing you. Because God has not given you a spirit of confusion. You know, some people say, I don't know what to do. I do this, right? I do this, I don't know what to do. I'm confused. That's why it is. A spirit of confusion has been oppressing you. I mean, I'm never confused. You know, sometimes my family will say, well, Papa, this is what we should do. And they'll say, no, I don't like that. I'm not asking what you like. I'm telling you this is what I'm going to do. And I'll tell my kids, I'll tell my wife, I'm not confused. Why? I refuse to receive the spirit of confusion. That's not from God. But here God says, I'll confuse you. That's why, what you're saying, when you say, I'm very confused, that's not from God. God has not given us a spirit. If you are following the Lord, you know what is right from wrong. And so I wish we will honestly analyze our situations like God. Call it as it is, instead of dancing around it. This explains why any attempt, now God says, humanity will Nothing will be impossible for human beings. The evil that it will do, if they are not confused, right? How did man fight God on that one? We started creating alliances. Now God says it's good. Split. Good. So that he can contain evil. You know why God allows human government? So that he can contain evil. It's not because government is perfect. He can contain evil. It's something that God uses so that there will be no rampancy in sin. So when a government says you can do whatever you want, that's contrary to what God designs the government for. Now listen. So now we start creating alliances. What is the greatest alliance of nations today? The UN and NATO. There is no limit to the evil that UN can do and NATO can do. I'll give you an example. Have you noticed the poor and the rich countries? So here comes the US, right? Here comes the US. Oh, your country is too poor. I'll give you $100 billion in one condition. You will legalize abortion. There is no limit to the evil that United Nations can do. And so there are poor countries in Africa, in Asia, that are agreeing to same-sex marriage because of the billions of dollars that Europe and the US gives. That's why the solution of God is separate them. You know what we're trying to do to fight God? We unite them. And the ultimate unity that will take place is the one that is a mixture of clay and iron in the vision of Daniel. It's the one world government. Why are you trying to create a one world government when God says split them up? You know what they say about jails? A criminal doesn't get rehabilitated. He becomes a better criminal. Why? Because he is with fellow criminals. How did you get caught? Oh, you're foolish. Next time you do this. Well, because I saw a child there, and he saw me, so I got caught. Well, next time you see a witness like that, just kill him. So now he's just a robber when he gets in. He goes out a criminal also. That's what happened. And God saw that. God says, there is no limit to the evil they can do. Let's confuse their language. You see? But we are trying, that's why this globalist, that's a direct opposition to the will of God. That's why these things that, and Christians are not even thinking, it's there in the Bible, you read that, it's there. We're not seeing it. That's why evil continues to triumph. So, you know why I believe the UN is so evil in this sense? When they were forming the UN, Russia refused to join. But Russia was big during that time because it's Russia. So they sat with Russia and said, so Russia, how can you make us join us? Russia gave two conditions. Number one, Russia said, there will be no mention of God in our charter. You know what the US says? Agree. Second, there will be no prayer in the UN halls. You know what the US says? Done. The UN is started as an atheist organization. Yeah. Why? Because God says, let's confuse their language. Let's separate them. You know what we are saying? Let's combine them. Now you will begin to understand. I'm just putting this together in my head. Now you begin to understand now when God says, have nothing to do with this kind of people. You know what we're trying to do? We want to merge with evil. God already said, have nothing to do. What is your problem? That's why, you know why God says have nothing to do? It's not because He doesn't love them. He loves them. He wants to preserve you. Because the possibility is you will be the one who will fall. They are already fallen. That's what God is saying. Oh, wait a minute. But we are more intelligent than God now. You know why? Because we have high school diploma. Yeah. We don't follow the scriptures anymore. So what happened here? Now to understand this, let's talk about a theory in mental state or psychological level. They call it the normalcy bias. Now, first, let's talk about how we are created. Okay? Now, the scripture gives us a simple truth about our creation. How are we created? We are created in the image and the likeness of God. Okay? You know how God looks like? Physically, He looks like us. He's got hair. He got more hair than me, you know. He's got hair. He's got head. He's got eyes. He's got fingers. He's got hand. He's got feet. The Bible talks about all of this, right? The finger of the Lord, the hand of the Lord, the eyes of God, you know. So, He looks like us. Oh, no, wrong statement. We look like Him. So, when God look at the creation, looks like me. Have you seen parents? Their children look like them. How proud they are. Looks like me, you know. That's the first question my wife asks whenever she gives birth. What's the color? You know? And then she will begin to say, this is a handsome one. Looks like me. If she thinks it's ugly, it looks like you, sweetheart, you know. So she said that among my kids, there's only one that bear my color, you know. It's John. So Joel insists we have the same color. Okay. That's physical, right? But I'll tell you this. All my kids looks like me. Yeah. The way they talk, not necessarily the physical, the way they make decisions, they're my kids. Yeah. If they talk to me and they demonstrate lack of confidence, I'm just going to yell at them and say, you're my child. What makes you a coward? You are my son or you are my daughter. We don't make decisions like that. Why? Because, and then when they make decisions and it's very solid, I look at that and smile. That's my child right there. That's why, look, you parents, when you don't like your kids, you say this, saan ba nang galing tong taong to? You know, where in the world did this come from? I'm not like that. My wife is not like that. Whose child is this? We say that. But when the child looks like you, makes you. So when God looks at us after we were created, he was very happy. Very happy. So here comes the devil. Look at what the devil said. If you eat this fruit, you will look like God. That's what actually tell you, you will look like God. First thing that the devil did is lie. Eve lacks the common sense. That's why I don't believe in common sense. I just believe we have senses, but there is no common sense. Why? Because if there is such a thing as common sense, then our senses will be common. But obviously, it's not common. What is wrong for some is right for some. There's no common sense. So Eve looked at Satan and says, really? Excuse me. Have you seen God walk yesterday? You look like him. And here's a snake saying, you don't listen to a snake. You listen to a snake, you will be duped. Yeah. You will be duped. You will look like God. Literally, you will look like God. Excuse me, you already look like him because God made you in his image, in his likeness. So that was the beginning of man forgetting what he looks like. Now I can explain to you perfectly what James means. When you look at the glass, at the mirror, you forgot how you look like. You see that? So now because of the words of Satan, you forgot how you look like. So we forgot how we look like. So now God has to send a Savior, right? Who is the Savior he sent? Jesus. You know why Jesus came? One of the reasons, aside from saving us? to remind us how we should look like. Philip asked, we have never seen God. You have been with me all these years. Anybody who has seen me has seen God. Whoa, you're looking at a man named Jesus. The reason why Satan hates humanity, every time he looks at us, he is looking at the image of God. That's why when a believer like us learn the truth and we get hold of the truth and stand on it, he's scared. Why? It looks like God talking. So he changed our image. God created you as a woman. He began to confuse you. Are you really a woman? Maybe you're a man in a woman's body. What is that? Deception. And millions of people today are buying into it. Yeah. So here you go. This woman was sick, right? Issue of blood. Jesus healed that woman on the day of Sabbath, right? And the Pharisees rebuked Jesus. Why in the world did you heal this woman on the Sabbath day? You should listen to Jesus. Jesus said, she is also a daughter of Abraham. You know who Abraham is? My friend. No daughter of my friend should stay sick. There you go. Yeah. She's a daughter of my friend, Abraham. No daughter of my friend should stay sick. So now the devil is making you sick. And you know what you say? Well, my mom had it when she was 50. My aunt had it when she was 47. I'm 41 now. I'm going to have it. You are looking at the wrong image. That's not the image of God. That's the image of Satan, the most sick individual on the whole universe. Are you following that? We have a wrong image. Oh, that's why you observe how he walks, how he talks. You know, the devil wants to flatter him. Oh, Son of God, did you come before our time? Shut up! He says. You know what we do when gossip like that and flatter like that? Keep going, keep going. Oh, you forgot your image. God doesn't receive flattery. He just look at the devil and say, shut up and get out of that man. Oh, but you know what happened when somebody flatters us? Some more, some more. Oh, our ears are clapping. You forgot your image. You forgot how you look like. God is not like that. You know why I despise sin? You know why I despise gossip? I look at God. He despises them. You know why I have nothing to do with those who cause division among us? God says, have nothing to do. I despise it too. That's the image. You know why some of us love it? We forgot our image. And this is what God, you will be like God. You will be like God. That's what Satan told Eve. You will be like, you'll be equal to God. So now when God says this, and we say, well, I think you have just made yourself equal to God. Forget how you think. You know, I offend my family perhaps when I'm saying something. Let's do this. And they'll say, well, I think, stop thinking. Just be obedient first. I tell my kids this. You have no right to think unless you can obey. Yeah. You don't know obedience yet and you're thinking. What's wrong with you? Thank God Adam and Eve doesn't have time to think. God just simply say, name all the animals. I have very limited vocabulary. There's no Webster dictionary. How can I name them? No, he just listened. Name them. That means you can name them. By the way, on the seventh day, you rest. Rest. From what? Was Adam laboring during that time? No. From what? He understood what Sabbath is. It's not just physical rest. Spending time with God. Oh, we were smarter now. We're smarter now. We don't believe in the day of the Lord anymore. We don't believe in the Sabbath rest anymore. We believe in 2 hours rest. We now converted, we changed the noun from the day of the Lord to the hour of the Lord. And pastors say you better dismiss that service by 12:30 or you're out of the will of God. Because we converted the day of the Lord to the hour of the Lord. See these things that's happening? It's a wrong image. Oh, the moment the wrong image is presented, then you accept it. When you accept it, it's called normalcy bias. When you normalize what is wrong, it's normalcy bias. Okay? And I will explain that tonight. Please, just 2 minutes left, okay?